The glass slipped from my hand and shattered across the hardwood floor. No one moved. My dad didn't even flinch. "Get out of my house," he said, his voice sharp and steady like he'd been waiting to say it. His finger pointed straight at Ethan. "You don't belong here." The room froze. We were sitting in my parents' dining room in Connecticut. Big table, polished wood, too many people pretending to be comfortable. My Aunt Carol stared at her plate. My cousin Jake suddenly got very interested in his phone. My mom just sat there, quiet, like always. No one ever spoke when my dad got like this. Ethan stood beside me, still, calm, almost too calm. "I didn't come here to cause trouble, sir," he said, his voice low, respectful. My dad let out a dry laugh, the kind that makes your stomach drop. "Don't call me sir," he said. "You married my daughter, not my respect." My chest tightened. I felt heat rise in my face. My fingers curled against the table. I wanted to say something. I really did. But nothing came out. Then my dad stood up, slow, controlled, like this was a performance. "You think this is enough?" he said, looking Ethan up and down. "That cheap suit, that job, that little act you put on?" Ethan didn't react. That almost made it worse. My dad stepped closer. "You're a nobody," he said, "and you always will be." The word hung in the air. Nobody. It felt louder than anything else he'd said. Ethan finally looked at me. Not angry, not defensive, just tired. "Claire," he said quietly, "it's okay." But it wasn't okay. It felt like something inside me was breaking in real time. "Dad, stop," I said, my voice shaking. "Please, just stop." He didn't even look at me. "He leaves now," my dad said, "or you both do." The room felt smaller, like the walls were pressing in. My heart started racing. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ethan reached for his jacket. No argument, no scene, just silence. "I'll wait outside," he said softly, glancing at me one last time. Then he walked out. The front door closed, and just like that, everything shifted. I stood there frozen, my throat tight, my eyes burning. I kept waiting for someone to say something, anyone, but no one did. My dad sat back down like nothing had happened. He picked up his fork. "Dinner's getting cold," he said. That's when something inside me cracked. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet and final. Because in that moment, I realized something I didn't want to admit. This wasn't just about Ethan. It was about me. And the fact that I had just stood there and let it happen. I don't remember pushing my chair back. I don't remember walking through the hallway. But suddenly, I was outside. Cold air hit my face hard. The kind that makes your skin sting. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath. Ethan stood near the driveway, hands in his pockets, head slightly down. The porch light barely reached him. For a second, I just watched him, like I wasn't sure I deserved to walk any closer. "I'm sorry," I said. My voice came out small, weak. He shook his head right away. "You don't have to apologize for him." But I did, because I didn't stop it. "I should have said something," I whispered, taking a few slow steps toward him. He looked up at me then. "You wanted to," he said. "That counts." I shook my head. "No, it doesn't. Not tonight." There was a pause, the kind that stretches too long, the kind that says more than words. Then he gave a small shrug. "I'm used to it," he said. That hit harder than anything my dad said inside. "Used to it." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" He let out a quiet breath. "People like your dad, they decide who matters before they even listen." I felt something twist deep in my stomach, because I knew that was true. I had seen it my whole life. "I don't care what he thinks," I said quickly. Too quickly. Ethan didn't answer right away. He just looked at me, not judging, not angry, just thinking. "I know you don't," he said finally, "but sometimes that's not enough." The space between us suddenly felt bigger than the driveway, like we were standing on two different sides of something I didn't understand yet. "I chose you," I said. My voice cracked a little. "That should matter." "It does," he said softly. "That's why I'm still here." Still here, not always here. I'm not going anywhere, just still. A car passed by on the street. The headlights swept across his face for a second, and in that brief flash, I saw it. Not anger, not hurt, something quieter, something worse, doubt. My chest tightened again. Ethan, I started, but I didn't even know what I was going to say. Because for the first time since we met, I wasn't sure if love was enough to hold us together. And that scared me more than anything my dad could ever say. The cold didn't bother me anymore, but the distance between us did. I met Ethan 3 years ago. Not at some country club, not at one of my dad's business dinners. At a small coffee shop in downtown Boston, 2 blocks from my office. It was raining that day, cold and messy, the kind of rain that ruins your whole mood. I rushed in, trying to save my laptop from getting soaked, and that's when I bumped into his table. My coffee spilled everywhere, across his laptop, his notes, his hands. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," I said, grabbing napkins, my heart racing. He just looked at the mess, then at me, and smiled. "It's okay," he said. "It's not the first time coffee has attacked me." I blinked. "Attacked you?" "Yeah," he said, laughing a little. "I have bad luck with drinks." I should have been embarrassed, but somehow I wasn't. That was the first thing I noticed about him. He made things feel lighter, easier. We ended up sitting together while his laptop dried out, talking. At first, just small things, work, weather, the terrible coffee, then more. He told me he worked in operations consulting, helping companies fix internal problems. "It's not exciting," he said. "It sounds important," I replied. He shrugged. "Only if people are willing to listen." That stuck with me. Because where I came from, people didn't listen. They decided, then expected everyone else to agree. For the first few weeks, I didn't tell him who my dad was. I just wanted to be Claire, not Richard Bennett's daughter, not the girl with the perfect last name, just me. And with Ethan, that felt possible. We started seeing each other more. Late dinners, walks by the harbor, quiet weekends, no pressure, no expectations, just peace. He worked hard, long hours, but he never complained. He cared about things most people ignored, details, systems, people behind the scenes. One night I finally told him the truth, about my family, about my dad. I expected a reaction, shock, curiosity, maybe even excitement. But Ethan just looked at me and asked one thing. "Does that make you happy?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. Growing up with my dad meant structure, control, perfection. You didn't question him. You didn't disagree. You followed. And I always had. Until Ethan. When I told my dad about him, he smiled. That should have been my first warning. A week later, I brought Ethan to dinner. Same dining room, same table, same quiet tension. "What do you do?" my dad asked, cutting into his steak without looking up. "Operations consulting," Ethan said calmly. My dad nodded slowly. "So, fixing other people's mistakes?" Ethan gave a small smile. "Something like that." A few people chuckled, but I didn't, because I saw it. That look in my dad's eyes, the one he used when he already made up his mind, the one that said, "This won't last." At first, the comments were small, easy to ignore. "He's not at your level, Claire. You're capable of more. This phase will pass." I told myself it didn't matter, that love was stronger than all of it. And for a while, it felt like it was. Because with Ethan, I had something I never had growing up, peace. But peace doesn't last when it's constantly tested. And slowly, without me even noticing at first, the cracks began to form. Small at first, then deeper. Until one night, they finally broke open. I didn't sleep that night, or the night after. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard it again. Nobody. My dad's voice didn't fade. It stayed. Sharp. Clear. And the worst part? It started to sound like my own thoughts. I hated that. I really did. But doubt doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up. The next morning, the apartment felt too quiet. Ethan was already up, standing in the kitchen, making coffee like it was any normal day, like nothing had happened. "Morning," he said. I nodded. "Morning." My voice felt off, like it didn't belong to me. He handed me a cup, our usual routine, same mugs, same place at the counter. But something felt different, like we were both pretending. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "Fine," he said quickly, too quickly. I watched him take a sip of his coffee, avoiding my eyes. That's when I felt it again, that quiet shift. "Do you ever think," I started, then stopped. He looked at me, waiting. "Think what?" I hesitated, my chest tightened. "That maybe this is too hard?" The second the words left my mouth, I wished I could take them back. Silence. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy. Ethan set his cup down slowly. "For who?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Was it too hard for me, or for him, or both? "I didn't mean it like that," I said quickly. Just what?" he asked. His voice wasn't angry, that made it worse. "I don't know," I admitted. "Everything just feels tense." He nodded once, like he understood, but he didn't say anything else. And that silence, it stretched. All through breakfast, all through the afternoon. Even when we sat in the same room, it felt like we weren't really together. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking, replaying everything. My dad's words, Ethan's face, that look in his eyes outside the house. Doubt. And then something hit me, something I didn't want to admit. My dad didn't need to break us. He didn't need to yell again. He didn't need another dinner like that. All he had to do was plant the idea and let it grow. Slow, quiet, dangerous. I turned my head and looked at Ethan sleeping beside me. At least, I thought he was sleeping. His back was turned to me. There was space between us. Not much, but enough to feel. And for the first time, that space scared me more than my dad ever had. If you've ever started doubting something you once felt so sure about, you know how quickly everything can fall apart. The next week felt fragile, like we were walking on thin ice and both of us knew it. We didn't fight. That was the strange part. No shouting, no arguments, just careful conversations. Short replies, long silences. It felt like we were both trying not to touch the same wound. Ethan stayed busy, more than usual. Late nights, early mornings. His laptop was always open. Spreadsheets, notes, numbers I didn't understand. I told myself it was just work, but something about it didn't feel normal. Then came the company event. My dad's firm hosted it every year in New York. Big room, glass walls, people in expensive suits pretending to be relaxed. I almost didn't go, but my mom called me that morning. "You should show up," she said softly. "It matters to your father." I almost laughed. It always mattered to him. So I went. Ethan came too. He wore the same calm expression he always did. Clean suit, straight posture, no sign of what happened the week before. That alone made me nervous. The room buzzed with quiet conversations, laughter that didn't feel real. I stayed close to Ethan at first, but people kept pulling me away. "Claire, good to see you. You've been keeping a low profile. How's married life?" Polite questions, careful smiles, and then Marcus. He appeared beside me like he always did, quiet, observing everything. "Your husband's interesting," he said, holding a glass of whiskey like it was part of him. I stiffened. "Why do you say that?" Marcus glanced across the room. Ethan was talking to two board members, calm, focused. "He asks questions most people avoid," Marcus said. "That can be useful." "And dangerous?" I asked. A small smile touched his face. "Exactly." I didn't like the way that felt. Not at all. Later that night, back at our apartment, I couldn't ignore it anymore. "Have you been talking to people at the company?" I asked. Ethan didn't look surprised. "Some," he said. My chest tightened. "Why?" He closed his laptop slowly. "Because something's off," he said. "What does that mean?" He leaned back in his chair, thinking. "Your dad's company, it looks strong on the outside," he said, "but underneath there are gaps." "Gaps?" I repeated. "Bad decisions," he said. "Weak structure. Money moving in ways that don't make sense." I let out a small laugh, nervous. "You barely know the company." "I know patterns," he said calmly. That confidence in his voice, it made me uneasy. "You think you can just walk in and fix it?" I asked. "I didn't say that." "Then what are you doing?" He paused. "I'm trying to understand it." "Or prove something?" I pushed. He looked at me then. "No," he said quietly. "I'm trying to figure out what's really happening." That answer didn't comfort me. If anything, it made things worse, because it felt like he was stepping into something bigger than both of us. Over the next few days, it got worse. He stayed up later. Papers spread across the table, notes written in the margins. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see the light from the living room still on. And he'd be there, working, focused, alone. "Ethan," I said one night, standing in the doorway, "this doesn't feel right." He looked up, tired but steady. "I know," he said. "Then stop," I whispered. He didn't answer right away, and that silence told me everything. "You're not going to stop, are you?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "No." My stomach dropped. Because in that moment, I realized something I didn't want to face. This wasn't just about my dad anymore, and it wasn't just about us either. Ethan wasn't trying to prove himself. He was chasing something deeper, something that could change everything. And I didn't know if I was ready for that, or if I could survive it. Sometimes the person you love doesn't walk away. They walk deeper into something you don't understand. Everything fell apart faster than I expected. It started with an email, short, cold, sent to every senior employee. Emergency board meeting, attendance required. No details, just time and location. I was at my desk when I read it. My stomach dropped instantly. Something wasn't right. I called my dad. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. By the time I got to the office in Manhattan, the energy had already shifted. People weren't talking like usual. No small jokes, no casual smiles, just whispers, tight faces, closed doors. I spotted Marcus near the elevator. "What's going on?" I asked. He looked at me for a second, like he was deciding how much to say. "Things are moving," he said. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now." That didn't help. The boardroom doors were closed when I got there. I wasn't allowed inside. I stood in the hallway, waiting, watching people go in and out. Time moved slow, too slow. Then finally, the doors opened. People walked out one by one, quiet, serious, avoiding eye contact. My dad came out last, his jaw tight, his eyes sharp. "Claire," he said, "we need to talk." My chest tightened. What happened? He didn't waste time. "Your husband has been interfering," he said. I blinked. "What?" "He's been talking to board members," my dad continued, "questioning decisions, digging into things that don't concern him." My heart started racing. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "Why would he?" "Because he's trying to prove something," my dad snapped. "And he just made a serious mistake." I didn't wait for more. I left. Fast. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking. Ethan was in the living room, laptop open, papers everywhere, like always. But this time, it didn't feel normal. "Did you go behind his back?" I asked the second I walked in. He looked up. No surprise, no denial. "Yes," he said. The word hit me hard. "Ethan," I stepped closer. "Why would you do that?" "Because I had to," he said. "You had to?" My voice rose. "You just made everything worse." "No," he said, standing now, firm. "I exposed something." "Exposed what?" He looked at me, serious, focused. "Your dad's not losing control by accident," he said. The room went still. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice barely there. Before he could answer, my phone rang. Marcus. I stared at the screen for a second before picking up. "Hello?" "You need to come back to the office," he said. His tone was different this time. No calm, no distance, just urgency. "Now." The line went dead. I slowly lowered the phone and looked at Ethan. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about him crossing a line. This was something bigger, something already in motion, and I had a feeling there was no way to stop it now. The ride back to the office felt longer than it should have. Every red light felt personal. Every second stretched. My hands stayed tight on the steering wheel the whole way, my mind racing faster than the car. Ethan's words kept replaying. "Your dad's not losing control by accident." I didn't want to believe that, but I couldn't ignore it either. By the time I reached the building, my chest felt heavy. The lobby was too quiet. Even the receptionist looked tense. "Boardroom," she said softly as I walked in. I nodded and headed straight for the elevator. The doors opened to the top floor, and the second I stepped out, I felt it. Pressure. The kind you can't see, but you know it's there. The boardroom door was open this time. I walked in slowly. Everyone was already seated. My dad stood at the head of the table. Marcus stood beside him. Still, calm, watching everything. The air felt thick. "Claire," my dad said the moment he saw me. "Good. Sit down." I didn't move right away. "What is this?" I asked. Control, he said. Something your husband clearly doesn't understand. That tone again, cold, dismissive. I finally sat down. My hands rested on the table, but I could feel them shaking. What did he do? I asked. No one answered. Not right away. Then Marcus stepped forward. Without a word, he placed a file in front of me. Thick, heavy. Read it, he said. My fingers hesitated for a second before opening it. Pages filled with numbers, transactions, reports, charts. At first, it didn't make sense. Then slowly, it did. My stomach dropped. These numbers are wrong, I said quietly. No, Marcus replied. They're not. I flipped through more pages. Money moving between accounts, decisions that didn't line up, approvals that looked forced. This can't be real, I said. It is, Marcus said again. I looked up, straight at my dad. He didn't look back. That alone told me everything, because my dad never avoided eye contact. Never. What is this? I asked, my voice shaking now. No one rushed to answer, and that silence, it was louder than anything. Finally, Marcus spoke. These are structural decisions, he said. Recent ones. Strategic, my dad added quickly. Necessary. Risky, Marcus corrected. The room shifted. You could feel it. Something underneath all of this. Something no one wanted to say out loud. I closed the file slowly. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about Ethan stepping out of line. This wasn't just about him asking questions. This was about what those questions uncovered. Something deeper, something dangerous. And suddenly, I wasn't sure who I was more afraid of, my husband or my father. Because for the first time in my life, my dad didn't feel in control. And that scared me more than anything else in that room. The room felt like it was holding its breath. No one moved. No one spoke. The file was still open in front of me, but I wasn't reading it anymore. I was watching my dad, waiting for him to take control like he always did. To explain, to redirect, to shut it down. But he didn't. For the first time in my life, he hesitated. And that's when the door opened. The sound was soft, but it cut through everything. Everyone turned. Ethan walked in. No rush, no hesitation, just steady steps across the room. My heart jumped into my throat. He wasn't supposed to be here. No one invited him. And yet, he didn't look out of place. He looked like he belonged. That scared me. Who let him in? My dad snapped, his voice sharp again, trying to grab control. No one answered. Because no one needed to. Ethan stopped at the end of the table. Then slowly, he placed a file down. Thicker than the one in front of me. He didn't look at my dad. He looked at the board. Before you make a decision, he said calmly, you should see this. My dad scoffed. This is not your place. Ethan didn't react, didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He just opened the file and turned it toward them. The sound of paper sliding across the table felt louder than it should have. One of the board members leaned forward, then another. Silence shifted into quiet movement, eyes scanning, pages turning, brows tightening. What is this? Someone asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. He let them read. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't about convincing anyone. The proof was already there. Emails, signed approvals, internal messages, dates that matched the reports I had just seen. Only this time, they told a different story. Not mistakes, not bad judgment. Something else. Something intentional. I felt my chest tighten as I leaned closer. There were notes. Marked changes, instructions that didn't match official decisions. And then I saw it, my dad's name, again and again and again. Not as someone reacting, but as someone directing it, quietly, carefully. Explain this, one of the board members said, looking up at my dad. The room shifted, not loud, but real. My dad straightened. This is being taken out of context. His voice was firm, but not as strong as before. Marcus still hadn't moved. He stood there, watching, not helping, not stopping it, just observing. You approved these transfers, another voice said. They were necessary, my dad replied. For what? Someone asked. No answer, just a pause. And in that pause, something broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. Ethan finally spoke again. I didn't come here to fight, he said. His voice stayed calm, steady. I came here to show you what's been happening. No long speech, no attack, just facts and silence. The board members looked at each other, then back at the documents, then at my dad. And slowly, one by one, they started asking questions. Not to Ethan, to my dad. Sharp ones, direct ones, the kind he usually asked other people. I watched it happen in real time. The shift, the balance moving, the room changing sides without saying it out loud. My dad tried to answer, tried to explain, but every word felt thinner than the last. And then he stopped, just stopped. For the first time, he had nothing left to say. The room went quiet again, but this silence felt different, heavy, final. I looked around, at the board, at Marcus, at Ethan, and then back at my dad. And I saw it, clear as anything. The power wasn't his anymore, not in this room, not right now, and there was nothing he could do to take it back. No voice, no control, no command, just silence. And for the first time in my life, my dad was the one being judged. Sometimes the loudest fall doesn't come from shouting. It comes from the moment no one listens anymore. It was over before it felt real. No shouting, no dramatic ending, just a decision, quiet, final. The board didn't take long. They didn't need to. By the time the sun started setting over the city, everything had already shifted. My dad walked out of the building without saying a word. No goodbye, no explanation. He didn't look at me, not once. And for the first time in my life, I didn't go after him. I didn't try to fix it. I didn't try to earn anything. I just stood there, still, watching him leave. And somehow, that felt like the end of something much bigger than just a job. The hallway slowly emptied. People whispered as they passed. Some avoided eye contact. Some looked at Ethan differently now. Not like before. Not like a nobody. Something had changed, and everyone felt it. Ethan stood beside me, quiet, calm, like he always was. They made a decision, he said softly. I turned to him. I figured. He nodded once. They offered me the role. My chest tightened. What role? He looked at me. The CEO position. The words didn't land right away. They just floated there. Heavy. Unreal. I let out a slow breath. Of course they did. After everything that just happened, it made sense. But it still didn't feel real. Are you going to take it? I asked. He didn't answer right away. That pause again. But this time, it felt different. Less distance. More thought. I don't know, he said honestly. That surprised me. Why not? He looked around the empty hallway, then back at me. Because this isn't just a title, he said. It's responsibility, and it changes everything. I nodded slowly. I don't want to become something I don't believe in, he added. That hit me, because for the first time, I understood what that meant. I had spent my whole life trying to fit into something that never felt right. Trying to earn approval that was always conditional. Trying to be enough for someone who decided what enough meant. And standing there, I realized I didn't want that anymore. Not from my dad, not from anyone. Then don't do it for them, I said quietly. He looked at me. Do it your way, I continued. Or don't do it at all. A small silence passed between us, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt clear. Ethan nodded. Then we do it right, he said. We. That word felt different now, stronger. Not fragile like before. Not uncertain. Chosen. I looked toward the glass windows. The city lights were coming on. Cars moving, life continuing. Like nothing had happened. But everything had. Because I wasn't the same person who walked into that house, or that boardroom. I didn't feel small anymore. I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. Not to my dad, not to anyone. I just felt steady. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. If you've ever had to choose between approval and truth, you already know which one lets you breathe. If this story made you feel something, hit like. And if you've ever chosen truth over approval, tell me your story in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, because some stories don't just entertain, they remind you who you are.